laying it back on earth, not hitting the structure that's built, 200 feet up in the air. But it shortchanged him. That was my only point, because that was one of the furthest balls I'd ever seen hit.
Yeah, he hits tanks. Unfortunately for the Phillies, like, man, besides game 3 when those guys all showed up, the biggest reason why they're sitting home today is their big three at the top of the lineup did not come through. Like, we can talk about the changes they need to make and things like that, but if Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, and Bryce Harper show up in the series, it's a completely different ball game. Now, I know you could say, well, they held Ohtani down, and they mostly held Mookie down. They held Freddie Freeman down pretty well. The Dodgers also have, like, plethora of talent after that, whereas the Phillies are more top heavy. I think they did a better job of filling out their lineup and some of the guys that bounced back years. But I mean, that's probably the most disappointing thing sitting here today is, had those three shown up outside of one game, it's a totally different series.
Do you feel like the offseason, Dombrowski put a bullpen together that was a postseason winning bullpen? Because you still had Alvarado at that time, you lost Hoffman, and you maybe, in my opinion, if there's a section, it's starting pitching, bullpen, position players, that bullpen was thin to start the year, even before. I mean, when we saw Alvarado in spring training, I think it was like 7 innings, 100 strikeouts, something ridiculous. He was kind of a little bit on the good, but to me, it looked like they built it a little short. Do you agree or disagree?
I totally agree. Heading into the season, I felt like they were an arm short before it even started, and it ended up being okay because they got Duran and they got Robertson, and he was kind of they needed him at that point. But I think the one glaring thing about the bullpen, at least this offseason, now it's nice you have Duran because Duran is here for another 2 years. You have a lockdown closer. It's easier to build a pen that way. Strom's coming back on an option. Unfortunately for Ryan Gerkring, I have no idea what he's going to look like next year. I mean, that could be something that lingers for forever. Who knows? Hopefully he comes back and he's fine. I feel bad for him today. But Robertson's not coming back. They need another right-handed option to get the ball to Juan Duran. And that is, of all the things they have to do this offseason, getting someone, I don't know, like Luke Weaver or something like that can be a real righty for them to get the ball to Duran and get big outs in the postseason and be a bridge is imperative. So that before the season, I thought the bullpen was flawed, bore itself out until the trade deadline, and that's something that Dombrowski has to get right this offseason.
Yeah, speaking of the way the game ended yesterday, what is the reaction in Philly? Do you turn on the local radio stations, listen in? What is the reaction? As what I expect?
Oh yeah. Well, so it's interesting. People are definitely they're mad at the Phillies. I think they're mostly mad at the top three. They're mad at Schwarber, Harper, and Turner. I think there's a good portion of Philly that feels bad for Ryan Kerkering. You know, we're all humans. He's a human. He's a younger kid, and he just blacked out. Like, he just blacked out and had one of the biggest blunders that I think I've ever seen here. You know, like, they're calling it Orion's melt, you know, instead of Orion's belt. So yeah.
Do you believe him? Do you believe him coming out in front of the camera and being raw and vulnerable and being human has helped?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hard to have all this anger when you see the guy almost, welling up when talking about it, because I mean, he feels like he let down his teammates. He felt like he let down an entire city. And the truth is, like, they didn't lose that game because of Ryan Kerkering. It sucked. It was unbelievable. I felt like I was watching it in slow motion, and I was like, oh, perfect. Out. What is he doing? Like, what do you mean? What are you doing? Anyway, but I think that most of the anger is geared towards the top three in the offense, even having them in that situation. And then I think as we get further and further away from the series, I'm just going to keep going back to games 1 and 2 and thinking if they could have stolen one of those, it's a completely different series. But yeah, people are annoyed. People are really annoyed because I think what happened this year is that people believed again, and they believed after last year when they lost to the Mets and they went down like dogs, and the city was done with them, and they sucked us back in. and they had us believing again. They were different, and Harrison Bader with the what a gift thing. I love Harrison Bader, and you got to re-sign him. And you have Duran in the intro, and you're like, damn it, one more time. Like, I'm open my heart. And then they just stomp on it. They just stomp on it. And I think that is what is hitting people. I think there's more sadness today that the season's over than mad, personally. Now, maybe that's just me projecting because I've been despondent for 12 hours. But I think that there's more sadness today than like real mad, because you do have to give it to the Dodgers too, man. They're great. And damn, they were right there.
You think they bring Topper back? This
Yeah.
exact team, the window is closed, and you do bring Topper back?
Well, I don't think the window's closed. I think there's going to be some different pieces to it. I think Castellanos is a guy who may play his last game as a Philly yesterday. Maybe Alec Bohm, even though he had a good series, feels like those are the two perpetual ones that they're always on the possibly getting moved out of here thing. And I think had they lost in 3 after what Thompson did in games 1 and 2, I think that there would be more of an uproar to move on from him. But just in my gut, I don't think they're going to move on from him. Although, if you're going to run it back with essentially the same team and maybe a little bit of different mix, maybe then you think, hey, I mean, there's a manager that won a World Series 2 years ago that was his 4th. Maybe he's the guy that could put this team over the top in Bruce Bochy. But in my gut, I think Rob Thompson's coming back.
What kind of deal you think Kyle Schwarber is going to get, and are the Phillies willing to pay that price?
Yeah, I think like 4/120 feels about right. I think he wants that 4th year. I think the Phillies are more comfortable with the 3rd year, but I think that 4th year gets it done. And listen, I love Schwarber, but at the same time, one hit in the Mets series last year was a home run. Really just showed up in one game in this series. I know he had the double in the first inning yesterday. So like maybe that keeps it down. I don't think it will, because he had it's still a monster year. But I think 4/120 feels about right for Kyle Schwarber.
Okay, good stuff. Well, we got all our questions in, a good 10. Jack, we appreciate the time, man. Have fun on your own show, or, as much fun as you can, talking sports for a living at least. Not Kratz, I'm trying to give him a little bit of positive motivation here on a
Tough
day
day
like
in
this.
Philly. Flyers,
Yeah.
Eagles, and Phillies lost. It's a tough day. Great day for you, Jackie boy.
Yeah. Well, we don't acknowledge the Flyers. We don't know that happened. And
That's
Eagles
the other show. That's the
our
other show.
Our pets' heads are falling off with the Eagles, and yeah, it's gonna be an exciting day, but also an awful day. So really looking forward to it. But appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you. Yeah, same here. That's Jack Fritz, WIP. You can listen to him locally, obviously, in the area there. We'll be right back. All right, we've got a tweet. I haven't seen most of the tweets, so we'll all learn together today about this one from Barstool Big Cat. I've caught myself singing Freddie, Freddie, Freddie in my head about 10 times this morning. Last night was so sick. Not go Cubs go?
What? Like
maybe they were chanting his name during the
Freddie Peralta's name?
Yeah,
I guess. I didn't hear that. Did you hear that in the broadcast? I watched the whole game. What about
your team just won a huge game, and the thing you think of is chanting Freddie, Freddie, Freddie? That's like a Pirates fan being like, oh man, who cares if we won? We chanted Cueto, and we got Cueto to drop the ball. Like, that's first class trolling, rage baiting. Like, you just beat a team, their best pitcher, 6-0. Like, go Cubs, go!
Yeah, to Kratz's point too. Like, that's the greatest. I mean, if you're on the Cubs and you're a Cubs fan, that's got to be the greatest thing of all time, to be in that stadium, being able to sing that song. Why wouldn't he talk about that? I was confused by it. I had to really think long and hard. I'm thinking, I didn't hear it. Maybe it happened. Maybe it was one of those things that happened. You had to be there. to experience it, but go
don't
Cubs,
like it.
go.
Yeah. I mean, some fans like to get after people more than celebrate. Sports is an escape. Some
Right.
fans want to yell at people, right? It's true. It's true. Some people like to do that. That's why the news is mostly full of trash, even though there are a lot of cool things that go on in the world too, because people want to get home from their hard day and then watch something and be like, oh, my day wasn't that bad. That was terrible. That is how the news works. So for some people, this is their therapy, and I'm okay with it. It's just, for me, I would have been like, I've been to actually a lot of Cubs playoffs games. The best feeling at a Cubs game is the end when you complete that, right? In this situation, you won both of your home games. You got the job done. Your bullpen was great. Your bats showed up. You got 3 home runs in this game. We're going to talk more about the series coming up in 30 seconds here, but to each his own. Be right back.
Okay, Big Cat.
Better Than Box Scores is powered by Arena Club, best card marketplace out there by far. Kratz, Game 5. Here we go, baby. Maybe home field advantage is a thing in some scenarios. The Brewers take the first 2, Cubs take the next 2. What's next?
What's next? Game 5. That's what's next.
Bullpen
You're making
game?
me choose. You're making me choose already. The one.
No,
game
I'm not
that
making you choose who wins. I'm just saying, like, what are we expecting in this game? Are the Cubs going to show up with some pop? Are they going to keep blitzing the
Yes.
Brewers early on? Tell me, what are you expecting here? How are the Brewers going to map and craft the perfect, bullpen strategy here?
Because it's going to be all bullpen. It's going to be all bullpen strategy. Is the Miz going to show up? I don't know. I'm not fully confident in the Miz yet, but kind of like Roki we saw in the other series, like when you have elite stuff, you have a chance to be elite. So do they need to give Miz a lead before they bring him in? Because maybe they're a little not confident in it. To me, yeah, the Cubs are going to come out swinging in the first inning. They've scored a billion runs in the first inning. And to me, if the Brewers want to win this one, I think it comes down to them playing their game, which is defense, bullpen, and the thing that has been missing this whole series, their base running. I need to see them steal some bases. I think if you go back to when the Diamondbacks made their run in 23, they had a team that was fast. And it was like, man, the Phillies just were keeping them down. And all of a sudden in game 4, they started running. They didn't win. Or in game 5, they started running, didn't win. Game 6, they started running again. 7, putting pressure on them. To me, I see the Brewers getting stuff going. I'm not saying you have to steal all the bases, but you have to put pressure on a really good Cubs defense that doesn't give you extra outs. So you're getting extra 90 feet with your legs, which the Brewers did really well all season.
Yeah, I think about how these short seasons or these short series work. We talk about home field advantage. Yes, I think home field advantage for those first 2 games is real. But when you go down 0-2 and you go home, yeah, you want to play great in front of your fans, but kind of everyone is counting you out. Then you win that first game, and then there's a little bit of pressure on the Brewers, like, oh, we don't want this to get back home because then home field advantage is a thing. So the Cubs are able to win the second game, and I think all the pressure is back on the Brewers now because you're up 0-2. You had a chance to go into Chicago and sweep them. You lose that first game. You start to feel that little bit of pressure like, oh no, if we don't win this game, it's coming back home. And then the real pressure mounts. So I think the Cubs have a lot of momentum going into this. I don't think home field is going to play in this scenario.
Okay. Yeah, that game 3 was tight. Brewers had a ton of chances, and they did not come through. right? They had bases loaded. Keller came through in the 8th inning when they brought him in. That was a perfect button pressed by Craig Counsell in that moment, but that's a 4-3 game. Game 4, KP, was not close, right? They blitz him early, as they've been doing. It was Ian Happ this time with a 3-run shot off a fastball over the plate, and he'd been cold, so maybe he's woken up. Aside from that, there were threats from the Brewers, but I don't know, man. It never felt close when you watch that one from front to back. And then, of course, the Cubs added insurance runs, 1 per inning in the late stages.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking from a little bit of experience as someone who was down 0-2 in a series. Slightly different because we lost those first 2 games at home, but that was kind of always the mindset was you better the only way we're losing this series is you had to beat us in game 3, because if we went in and didn't get swept, we could feel kind of that momentum, that pressure starting to turn to the team that was up 2-0, because everyone says you're up 2-0, you're supposed to win. But when you don't win that 3rd game, that 4th game feels very, very, very critical. And the Cubs went out and won very deciding. Now you go back on this flight and you know what you're up against. Not only at game 5, but you're also staring down the fact that you might be, a team that loses. Teams that are up 2-0 win like almost 90% of the time. So that kind of little voice and that little pressure kind of adds up a little bit too.
Yeah, 50-50 if they win. To me, the Cubs' big sticking point here, who had a good game last night? 2 of their big guys. Tucker, what was he? I was just looking it up. 2 for 3, 2 walks, a steak, a dinger. Like, that's scary if you're the Brewers, because how did the Brewers get knocked out last year? By a dinger to end the game, or in the end of the game by Pete Alonso at home. Brewers fans need to come to the park with a positive attitude, because that negativity of, are we gonna get bounced again in back-to-back years? Like, is this how it's gonna go down? Like, oh no, what's gonna happen next? And I think if they can get rolling, they'll take the momentum and they'll push it through the end of the game. If it's a close game throughout, I think the Cubs ultimately prevail.
Yeah, and the greatest thing you could do as a road team, and which I experienced being in Yankee Stadium during the Toronto series, is you can go in with a plan as a fan base, but baseball is a very reactionary sport. You can only be excited about things that kind of happen on the field. You can motivate your team, but you're also very reactionary. And what the Blue Jays did a great job in Yankee Stadium, they scored first. They shut up the crowd. And then it took the Yankees some things to getting back into the game, to get the crowd back into the game. What the Cubs have done really good in this series is scoring early. So if you're a Brewers fan and you want to create this home field environment, even if the Cubs score early, you have to find a way to just continue to be loud and motivate your team and not be very reactionary and not allow things that happened in the past to kind of dictate what's happening right now during this series.
And we've seen this from the Brewers all season long. I mean, falling behind early on in games and then unfazed. It's not even late catch-ups. It's often early catch-ups. I mean, I've seen plenty of Brewers games where this happens, and we saw them in both games that they played at home, falling behind early, and especially in game 2, right? Game 2 was the Suzuki home run from Seiya, and then 5 seconds later, I mean, we're tied. So they are certainly capable of doing this, but can they outslug the Cubs in a winner-take-all game? And do they have the pitching plan in place? I'll tell you one thing, guys. I am certainly concerned if I'm a Brewers fan, regardless of what happens in this game 5, because I'm looking at a Dodger team that's got the traditional starting pitching setup. They've got it all. They've got the experience. They're clicking at the right moment. And for Milwaukee, it's still difficult for me, KP, to look at this team and how successful they've been in regular seasons, but not able to get over the hump in the postseason, and wonder, just like we talked a little bit about with the Phillies, if they don't have the right potion to go the distance. I do think you need to build a regular season winner and have other things in mind for the postseason. Of course, traditional starter horses can help carry you. Brandon Woodruff loss was huge for them. Imagine if you had the Woodruff that we were seeing when he came back. That would be a huge difference maker, because it does eventually tax your pen, and their pen didn't have a good game just now against the Cubs.
That was the exact name that came to mind, is when you're talking about having the right pieces, the right potion. I think they were counting on him pitching in the postseason this year. Obviously, he has some injury history. He got injured this year, but you can get away with these kind of bullpen, kind of scramble mode kind of games in a 5-game series, but you will get exposed in a 7-game series. And that was always the question with like a Dodger team. If they can get to these 7-game series, that's what they're really built for, because they do have your traditional 4 starters. You know, they even have a 5th starter in Kershaw if you really wanted to use him, who's now in the bullpen. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough if either of these teams move on, because I don't think the Cubs really have that kind of starting pitching depth too that, you know, maybe like a Dodger team has, where you're rolling out 4 guys that you're very comfortable with every time they take the ball.
Kratz, do you feel this at all? What are you seeing postseason version of Milwaukee? I know it's only been 4 games, but you made a face when I said, hey, if you get through this game 5, you're running into the Dodgers.
I think they're built to give the Dodgers a tougher time than the Cubs. I think the Cubs can be pitched to, and, you know, I think and look, people are going to say I'm a homer. I'm not a homer for the team of the Brewers. I'm a homer for the fans of the Brewers. I almost want this more for the fans than I do individual friends that I have on the team or coaches who are on the team that I really like. To me, it's about like this fan base getting the ultimate prize. And in the way is the Cubs right now. In the way is the fact that they don't have a starting pitcher. But over these years, look at what the Brewers have had in starting pitching. They have had Corbin Burns, mega free agent. Big Woo was going to be a mega free agent before the shoulder derailed him and he missed almost 2 seasons. Freddie Peralta is a bona fide ace now. He's taken that next step, and you continually add guys in. So to me, I think they were built for the postseason, but there's so many, they don't have enough depth overall. And that's where I think it's tough. When you don't have the money, you can't go out and keep one of these guys. So they have to do things differently. And now their back's up against the wall. They have to go and push all in. Whatever they feel like their style is, go push all in and leave it all out on the field. Run, bunt, hit, whatever it is, your superstars need to step up. Each starting each pitcher needs to be ready for tonight, and they need to leave it out on the field, or the Cubs will take them down in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I got the same. I think the Blue Jays team is unbelievable, but that's really my concern with them going into that longer series, is who's going to pitch the 4th game. And if the Seattle's able to get there, I think that's what Seattle is really built for, is playing these long playoff series, assuming like someone like Brian Wu comes back. But it's hard. It's hard to, you know, really have 4 starting pitchers that you rely on. And sometimes it's really even hard to have 3 starting pitchers you can rely on. That's what makes the Dodgers just kind of this unique scenario where they just know that throughout a season, you're going to go through a lot of starting pitching depth. But ultimately, when it comes down to these long series that you're trying to win, we need 4 guys.
Yeah, and during a season, you need like 15. And then you hope that you've got 5 or 6 towards the end of the year. Then you can pick from that 5 or 6 to go with 4 that you think you can get through October with. And then if it's a tough decision, great. Emmett Sheehan pitches out of the bullpen for the Dodgers. Roki Sasaki is now a bullpen extraordinaire. And we get it. They've got the resources. But we mentioned this in the postgame show last night when the Dodgers took down the Phillies. They're not the only rich team in baseball. And they actually made plenty of mistakes, right? Like they signed up Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. They're not a relevant factor for this team in October now. So it's not like it was perfection. The Mets spent close to as much money as them, and they haven't figured out even making the playoffs this year. But anyway, we're excited. Game 5 is going to be awesome. Can't wait to see it. My last shout out here from Game 4 is Matt Boyd completely turning it around and showing why he needs a regular rest like any other starter in baseball. I'm sorry, like that, his stuff was so much better, so much more crisp, command of the curve. Kratz, like to look just like at his secondary stuff alone and the difference that you saw in the first game versus what you saw in Game 4, I was like, okay, yeah, modern starter needs regular rest, especially a guy who's been through it, pitched a really long year, had some issues down the stretch of this season. It was a no-brainer to see the difference, and they won't do that again.
These are the kind of decisions that I would be more leaning towards like somebody else getting in trouble for. And I'm not saying it's a council thing. I'm saying for the team to come to him and say, hey, will you start? Maybe he wasn't reading the room. And if the Cubs lose this series, somebody wasn't reading the room having Matthew Boyd. All the things you just said, a little bit of injury history, has kind of bounced around, was struggling a little bit at the end of the year. And you can't go to him and say, can you get us game 1? A short rest? Be like, yeah, KP, I'm sure you would agree with me. Your leg's hanging off. You're like, am I faster than this person you're going to put out there? I'm playing. But there's a point where the team has to say, no, we're not going to throw you on short rest. Sorry, we just can't do that. And it proved it last night.
It's not always the rest component, too. It's as a starting pitcher, you get off the mound twice. You throw, and then you got your bullpen. But to be sharp, you need to be able to kind of have that bullpen day. Unless maybe going into it, you're going to pitch on short rest, and maybe you can get off the mound a little bit and really work on your craft. But, it's much like pinch hitting. Like, it's really hard to go out there and be in a rhythm all the time. That's why playing every day is a little bit easier than coming off the bench. So when you're only able to get off the mound and then get off the mound again, and you have no ability to kind of work on your mechanics, your feel for your pitches, I think that's an equally as big factor of why guys typically struggle on short rest, is because they just don't have the feel for their stuff.
Yeah, perfectly stated. We're excited for this one, Game 5, NLDS, Brewers Cubs. Winner takes on the Dodgers. All right, we're going to swing back, and first off, arenaclub.com/foul is the spot all year long. We've been talking about how you can get yourself slab packs to pick out that one big card, or card purchases. And we showed you a number of cards while we were chatting just now about players like The Miz, Kyle Tucker, right? If you're looking for cards like that and they're graded, you can make an offer. It's all in one spot on Arena Club. It goes in your showroom. You want the card, you tell them, and they send it to you. Otherwise, if you want to flip it, it makes it so much easier to do so. arenaclub.com/foul, 20% off your first card purchase or slab pack. Next up, we'll play Pick Your Poison. If your team's out, maybe you should root for the Blue Jays. Hey, we had an epic battle just now. 2 shows starting at the same time, rare on the FT network, but Ken Rosenthal had some flight delays, so he popped on at 1 o'clock Eastern and got his Fair Territory show for the week done in the books, coming back from the Yankees Blue Jays series. So lots of thoughts from Ken on that series, and specifically, he addressed what went wrong with the Yankees and if Aaron Boone and or Brian Cashman should be concerned about their job security. And most Yankee fans are going to laugh at this point. There's been a lot of continuity there for a while, but it's at least a discussion worth listening to with Ken. KP, your thoughts? I mean, the Yankees, for their standards, have not gone the distance in a long time. For their standards, right? It's a team that's had a ton of success. They have resources. They've had the same GM forever. And now they've had the same manager for a long period of time. Some of the guys are going to move on, but I'm talking about player personnel, but they've still got most guys under contract for a while. So what do you do?
I mean, I listened to what, Jeter and A-Rod had to say after the game, and I don't think it's an Aaron Boone problem. I think it's a roster configuration problem. Obviously the entire team can't take the blame. The old saying is you can't fire the whole team, right? So someone has to, be fired. You take the blame for what they're doing. And in this case, I don't think it's Aaron Boone. I think it's the roster that he was given was a little bit flawed. You have 2 left-handed catchers. You have multiple DHs. You don't have a lot of versatility to be able to kind of mix and match. You don't have a lot of contact. You have a lot of power, not a lot of contact, not a lot of speed. So I think it's more about the way the roster was constructed. And granted, if you have Garrett Cole pitching in 2 of these games, it's probably a different story. But teams that are able to overcome injuries of their superstars and being able to have depth and piece it together and draft and develop and have these guys kind of, waiting in the wings is, I think the bigger issue here.
Kratz, one thing I just want to add, and we'll have to have Andy Martino back on the show because he was kind of defending the front office side of the equation, even though I do think it's much more roster construction than Booney is. He said how Susan Waldman pointed out that no, Booney's just getting the info and then making the decisions. And I love Susan too, but guess what? If you disagree too much, you don't have a job. That's how it works. It doesn't have to be said, but I'm going against both of them on that front.
And they have to all work in lockstep. Good organizations, which the Yankees are a great organization, are working in lockstep or you don't win.
Agreed. Pick Your Poison is a now famous series where you suddenly have to root for a different team because you love baseball too damn much and you don't want to just watch to watch. So which team do you want to ride the rest of the way? And it becomes more difficult as we progress here in the postseason, but it's the perfect day to have KP on the show to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays and why some baseball fans should adopt the team in Canada the rest of the way. KP, you played for this team for a long time. You know this franchise well, the way they treat their fans, the way they treat players, the fact that they haven't won since 1993, over 30 years ago. Tell us why some fans who don't know the Blue Jays organization well should grab them for the next few weeks.
Where do I start? Unbelievable fan base, super deserving of winning, very passionate. Like you mentioned, they haven't won since the early 90s, but they still come out and support their team. They love baseball. They love all their sports. They're starving for a winner. They come in year in and year out to support this team. Reasons, if you're a fan and your team's no longer in it, why you should root for the Blue Jays. I have a couple notes here I wrote down. During that Yankees series, they had 8 guys with 2+ RBIs. They had 18 two-strike hits. And in game 4, facing a guy in Cam who struck out 12 Red Sox in the wild card round, I need someone to check these stats, but I think they only had 4 swing and misses. So if you want to watch exciting and a fun brand of baseball where you're not just waiting for one guy to hit a home run or they're going to strike out or they're going to walk and be this 3-outcome team, this team is always exciting to watch. Their at-bats are incredible. They're so selfless. They never want to talk about themselves. This is the definition of a team, and I think this is why you should get behind them.
If you're going to join a team, if you're going to join a fan base that you have or follow a team that you haven't, you got to at least follow one player. I talked about the Mariners, Cal Raleigh. This team just minted. I mean, the ink is still drying on the Vladdy Guerrero extension. A guy who was drafted by this team, not traded over and found. Like, he was drafted by the Blue Jays. He came up through their system. His manager now in the big leagues was his AA manager in New Hampshire. They won championships there. That combination of 2 guys is going to give you that, like, man, I can get behind these guys every single day. I can get behind Vladdy. The lineage of his ability to hit comes from his dad. And yet now he also added to that plate discipline. He added to that this postseason. I don't remember his final numbers, but it was like 6 something that he was hitting. Like, he is rising to the moment. And to me, if I'm joining a fan base, I know I'm gonna look at this roster. I'm gonna be like, I know Vladdy's playing every single day, so I'm gonna watch this. Other organizations, it's like, oh man, like, okay, well, we're platooning, so my favorite guy's hitting first. Now it's a lefty. Now he's gonna hit 6th. No, Vladdy's the heart and soul of that order, and everybody else just kind of follows along.
For me, KP, I consider myself a new school and old school fan. I like certain stats. I think they're super helpful. I think we were too reliant 15, 20 years ago or whatever, when I was growing up, on stats that, didn't necessarily tell the whole picture. Okay. But at the same time, there were parts of the game that I fell in love with that I felt like we got so far away from during one of the more dead times in our sport, where I think we lost a lot of young fans. 3 true outcome, super, super slow paced games. We are getting away from that. And for me, if you're a fan of the time period before that and the time period that I think we're getting out of, where it's faster, it is more contact, there's more emphasis on defense. And that's what I'm talking about. Our defensive metrics perfect by no means, but we had nothing for a long period of time growing up. So at least we have something. And that something tells us, when you look at Toronto, aside from the Game 3 loss, over the last 3 years, and you watch them play defense, you're like, yeah, that's fun. That's clean. That's good. That's what young kids should look at, right? So for me, if you want that brand of baseball to become more of a thing, then you want that team to win the World Series, because it's a copycat league. And then front offices are going to be like, oh, wait, they're going to go jumping back to their computers. Wait, what are the Blue Jays doing? We aren't doing this. We got to get more into contact defense, a little bit more of an old school style that Erik Chavez, former hitting coach for the Mets, just talked about with us on Foul Territory a day ago. So I think that actually is a factor here. If you enjoy a certain brand of baseball, then you want that brand of baseball to win, and you will see more of it in the sport.
I do believe that they're a top 5, maybe number 1 in base running too. So let's change the narrative on the 3 true outcomes. Let's talk about the Blue Jays' 3 outcomes. They're going to put the ball in play, they're going to run the bases well, and they're going to play defense. Those are your new 3 true outcomes. Most teams should follow that recipe. It helps you win games.
But you got to put a value on it.
What do you mean?
There's an elite value in stolen strikes. There's an elite value in home runs. There's an elite value for pitchers striking out. You have to put a value on it that's going to be manipulated and be able to be taught, because you can never have hit, and you can be taught to swing really hard and hit the ball far. You can't have never played and be taught and teach somebody, okay, here's how you base run. You're Dave McKay. That's really what Dalton Varsho brought over to the Blue Jays. His elite base running, and everybody followed suit from what he was taught by Dave McKay. So you have to find that value, and you have to prove to organizations that that value is more than the extreme value of a home run, extreme value of strikeouts by pitchers.
I'll throw one other pick your poison example out there. And, we have plenty of Canadians that watch this show. We have many Americans that watch this show. I often root for fan bases that don't get a lot of winning, because I think it's cool when you haven't seen it for a long period of time. And I just mentioned the team, right? The Blue Jays not winning since 1993. I think I have this right, KP, because I did work for NHL Network for a while and I looked it up real quick. But the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, it's hard to believe it, but I think it's 1993, right? The Montreal Canadiens. I think that's what they say out there.
Right. I definitely know
that's the sport that dominates the
because
country. Yeah, it's not the Leafs. When's the last time
the Leafs are the Leafs are in Toronto,
1967?
It's a big thing. They haven't won in forever, but people still love the team. Like they go out and support them. Like the country, the city of Toronto, but you have to mention the entire country of Canada wants a winner so bad. And basketball is not even that big of a deal it's a big deal in Toronto and maybe a little bit on the east coast of Canada. As you get out west, it's not a big thing. But they had over 4 million people at the parade for when the Raptors won it a couple years ago. So these people are just wanting to see a winner so bad.
If you want baseball to continue to be an international sport, then every once in a while, you get another country pulling off a dub, especially when there's only one team in Canada. There's one team outside of the United States, right? So we've seen the sport really go to the next level globally, especially in Japan, with the emergence of Shohei Ohtani as one of the best players we've really ever seen. So for Canada purposes right now, this is a country that hasn't seen any winner in their favorite sport since 1993. Toronto specifically hasn't won since 1967. So there's some cool history here that could be cracked. And it'd be funny if finally they get a title from sports that they truly love on the baseball side before the hockey side. So anyway, if there's something else that you think we're missing reason-wise, drop it in the comments if you're looking at this later. Otherwise, coming up next, we're going to go over the big Game 5 in Seattle tonight with Ryan Divish. It's FT presented by Fox One. We're going to talk to Ryan Divish coming up in just a moment about the Seattle Mariners and the Detroit Tigers. And obviously the Mariners have the ultimate streak going here. The only team, KP, in Major League Baseball that's never made it to the World Series. No World Series appearances for the Mariners. And they're damn close here.
I mean, if they weren't clashing with the team that I'm rooting for, I would be rooting for them because, once again, I like seeing things that have never happened before. I think the Mariners is a tremendous organization. I always love going to the city of Seattle. Very passionate fan base. And hot take, I think they have the MVP.
Not that hot. Kind of lukewarm. Kind of a lukewarm take. But
No, that was more to just get you going a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I think it's 50-50. Got a chance. It is going to be a Game 5, not like we've ever seen. I feel like when it's Game 5, you're like, oh, who's going to hit the home run? It's like, who's going to get jammed and get the first on a fielder's choice?
That's a good call.
Can we recreate that ball that went over Scooble's head? You know, that's what they're working on the cage right now. They're like, hey, you can't hit him, but maybe you can chop one off home plate, get it over his head, and if you are fortunate to somehow get to second base, just run like hell until someone stops you, because it feels like that's the only way to score a run off him.
And we'll pick your thumbs up. The next batter will pick your thumbs up in the batter's box. Or the guy scoring will pick your thumbs up. Like, it's like you're going to see old school baseball tonight. That is for sure. Bunting.
I mean, we could see a sack bunt in the first inning. I think that's what type of game it's going to be.
Over under 2.5 bunts in the game.
I'm going under. I'm going over.
I'm going under because they won't have that many base runners.
Wow. That's why this is cool. We'll talk to Ryan Divish in 30 seconds. If you have a question for us about the Mariners or the Tigers in this series, now is your chance. Ryan's coming up. Here we go. Let's talk about this big Game 5 coming up with Seattle Times writer Ryan Divish back on FT. Ryan, we really appreciate the time. Crazy night coming up in Seattle. Can you paint the picture of how crazy it's going to be for the city, but then also for the game in terms of decision making on the Seattle side? I think Dan Wilson probably is going to have a little more churning to do with his pitching decisions versus AJ Hinch.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be chaos tonight. I think part of it is like, I know the fan base is excited, but there's a segment of the fan base that's absolutely terrified of what's going to happen because of, I don't know, just the years and years and years of frustration. And so there is a large segment of the fan base that's probably a little pessimistic. They seem to all reside in my Twitter mentions. Then there's also a part of the fan base that's like, oh yeah, no, like it's better that they have this. They can win it at home. Everybody can celebrate with them. It'll be pandemonium. I mean, when they clinched the division, there was a huge party outside of T-Mobile Park, and and people were out celebrating. So I'm guessing that's, that there's just all that kind of anxiety, like nervous anxiety, excited energy, all that stuff mixed together. You just don't want it rubbing off on the players, obviously. And as for the moves, I mean, like, it's going to be a little different. We've expected this from AJ Hinch because that's how they've done stuff a lot of the years, but it's different when you have Tarik Skubal on the mound, where you don't, your decisions are pretty easy. With Dan Wilson, it's going to be managing a game different than he's ever managed before. I mean, I think that he saw that in game 1, adjusted in game 2. I thought in game 4 there was some different things he could have done maybe to offset things. And so tonight it's going to be, if George Kirby doesn't have it, you got to go get him right away. I think he'll be fine. I think George has looked pretty strong. You saw the 99-mile-per-hour sinkers he was firing in the last game, or his last outing. But you cannot hesitate. You have to be aggressive in every decision you make in a game 5 because it's win or go home.
Ryan, finish this sentence for me. The Mariners win tonight if.
The Mariners win tonight if Cal Raleigh or Julio Rodriguez hit a homer. That's, to me, that's a big thing. Like, if you notice the first few games where they were going, Julio was a big presence. And I think game 3, game 4, they really were very careful with how they pitched to him because they know how much damage he can cause. And he didn't have a hit in either of those 2 games, I believe. So getting Julio on base or having him hit a homer. I know you guys' boy AJ, he's been bringing it up. If the Mariners hit 2 homers in a game, they're usually pretty unbeatable. So if they can get 1 homer from Cal or Julio and then maybe a homer from somebody else, that's how they do it. But it probably won't come off of Tarik Skubal. I mean, like, you think about it the other day, Skubal threw, 6 innings? He struck out 9. He allowed 5 hits, but he just basically made 2 mistakes. And they were both to Polanco, who hit him out. I'm guessing that he won't throw a cement mixer to Jorge Polanco again or even a 2-0 fastball and challenge him. I think they're going to be very cognizant about where they want to be and in certain spots of the zone and let other guys beat them, specifically the bottom of the order, which other than in game 4 hasn't done a whole lot.
Do you lean to the fact that it is almost impossible to beat Tarik Skubal 4 times in a season and just say, he's been almost perfect, now tonight he's going to be perfect? Or is there something in the sauce? Is there something in the fact that this team swings and Tarik Skubal's not pitching around guys? And so, the 2 laws of attraction, guys pitch in the zone and teams that swing, something bad is going to happen for Skubal.
Well, I certainly don't think they're afraid of him. I mean, like, you played him 3 times. You're not afraid of what he's done. You can beat him, even if it has been kind of ugly in how they've beaten him. I mean, we're talking about Donovan Solano hit an RBI triple in one of the games that they beat him, and Dylan Moore, who, in the first time they beat him, they hit a solo homer. Those guys aren't with him anymore. But I think you beat a guy, you've seen him a lot. I think they understand. The one thing is like that changeup, that disgusting, filthy changeup, they get in counts where that it's a possibility. They just got to see it up because it's like that thing is so nasty, and he'll throw it left on left. I was looking at my buddy Tim Booth, who works with me at the Seattle Times. He did some research on this, and like guys coming out of their Cy Young year or guys in their Cy Young year, and we're expecting Skubal to win the Cy Young year. They don't lose to a team 4 times very often. And the best kind of comp we could come up with was 2013 Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers lost 2 games he started against the Cardinals during the regular season, and they lost both times in the ALDS. So that's kind of where, and man, they just crushed Kershaw that year. I don't think they're going to do the same with Skubal, but that's where the territory we're in right now is like you're comparing Skubal to Kershaw, and that's what you're trying to do is beat him 4 times or beat a game that he beat the team when he starts 4 times in a season. It's not simple, but I mean, stranger things have happened.
Should they even be in this spot? We've watched the Tigers lineup that is, in my opinion, is putrid. I get it, the fact that the Mariners rotation, the Mariners bullpen, they are just running out arm after arm after arm. The Tigers have looked listless, and yet they're in a spot that is enviable by everybody. Elite starter going, and you win tonight, you move on. Should the Mariners even be in this spot?
No, because I think they should have won game 1. I don't think there's any way George Kirby should have pitched to Kerry Carpenter. There was a bag open. If you want to walk him, you can do that. Just don't let that happen. And similar to the other day, I mean, it's 3-0. I know that Spire and Bizarro, they just weren't as crisp. But I think, in that situation, Dan Wilson did a favor for AJ Hinch by bringing in Spire to face Parker Meadows. Meadows hitting 210. He strikes out 30% of the time. You don't need, if you want to go, bring in Bizzardo, because what happened is the moment Spire came in, Jemai Jones came in, and that did them a favor. You weren't putting a situation where AJ had to make a decision between Jemai Jones and Kerry Carpenter. It's no decision with a lefty facing Parker Meadows. You're going to Jemai Jones, regardless of the defense that Meadows provides. So then all of a sudden, Gabe Spire's facing back-to-back righties. Then he gets Carpenter another righty. That's not what you have Gabe Spire in there for. And I know he can get out right-handers. So I think that one was kind of questionable. The Mariners didn't add after they got the 3 runs. They had bases loaded, only get 1. But I feel like this series should have been over with. Am I a little sour because it would have been a lot easier to drive from Detroit to Toronto than flying back to Seattle? But from a talent standpoint, the Mariners are the better team. And what happens is when you get to a game 5 in a short series and they got their horse going, luck starts to play into it too. A bad break here, a bad break there. You look at the other day, I felt like the Bryce Miller inning where everything went south, Randy Arozarena has to cut that ball off in left field. It's happened twice. Bad angle, bad read, doesn't cut it off, lets it get to the gap. Then all of a sudden it's a double scoring run. If he cuts it off, if he finds a way to cut it off, maybe they get the runner to third, but Dylan Dingler does not get to second base. And then you can play a little bit. You can match up. You can do some things. So I think that's the thing is once you get into a game 5, the luck component happens. One mistake here, one mistake there. That happens. Even last night, you're watching the Phillies and the Dodgers. The Phillies had so many opportunities and they just couldn't. And it's game 5 and you find a way to lose and you're done. And that's the difference with the 5-game series versus the 7. In a 7, I think the overall talent of the Mariners wins out regardless of decisions. But in 5, you make one mistake, you have one bad game from a reliever or something like that, and all of a sudden you're fighting for your life.
All right, make your best case against Erik Kratz, who believes Aaron Judge is going to win the MVP, why Cal Raleigh should be the MVP.
Well, the running joke was the other night, Cal Raleigh, after Vargas threw the wild pitch that he couldn't block, he threw a 100-mile-per-hour sinker in the dirt that Cal went across his body, backhanded and blocked with one leg and glove. And right there I said, hitting 60 homers is pretty hard. Catching Carlos Vargas multiple times in a season, let's see Aaron Judge do that. You know what I mean? The amount of stress that Cal Raleigh has put on himself and his body physically every day, Kratz should know how many times you get up and get down in a 9-inning game. This is a guy that's caught more innings than anybody else in the American League. I just think physically what he's done, the amount of pressure, the amount of time, the amount of focus that goes into everyone else other than him, I think that's why. That's how you measure value. I was a very mediocre catcher in college, and catching a 7-inning game, I felt like I got hit by a train. So Cal's doing this every night and catching the best guys in the world. So I just think the amount of influence he has on the game beyond his hitting numbers, beyond OPS plus or OPS, is something you can't possibly measure, but you kind of know it. And I guess to me, it's I see an MVP level performance, and somebody joked with me that it's because I spent most of my early years of my career in Seattle watching bad catching, that when I see good catching, I overvalue it. But I don't think there's any overvaluing good catching and production from a catcher spot. How many guys do we see now produce from the catcher spot? The way, not even like Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh of last year is kind of like a unicorn hitting 35 bombs, 60. I will never see a season like this again.
You mean Kenji Jojima wasn't the best catcher you've ever seen? Go ahead.
I go off the list. I covered Miguel Olivo and Jeff Clement, Jesus Montero, who I hope is doing better because I know he's in a bad car accident down in Venezuela. I cover a lot of bad catchers. That's why when they drafted Mike Zunino, and everybody was upset because, Zunino was a 200 hitter. The amount of runs that dude saved. Ask the Tampa Bay Rays what they've been looking for since Zunino got hurt and retired. When you have that guy back there and you can stamp him in and he can post, it just makes such a huge difference.
All right. Well, to make sure KP understands, I think Cal's the MVP. I think Aaron Judge wins it. My opinion and who wins it are two different things. But we got to go to Josh Naylor for my last question. Josh Naylor relaying signs. What do you like? Can we put this to bed? Is Hinch pissed about it? Is it something that's going to be taken care of tonight? Spring training? What do we got on it?
Yeah, AJ didn't seem very upset, but AJ's pretty polished on the podium. I'm not gonna lie, like he's a writer's dream because he can talk forever about anything. But he didn't seem too upset about it. I don't think Casey Mize was upset or pleased about it. He had a few words. But this has been going on. It happened to Andres Munoz in New York earlier this year. Judge and some guys were signaling pitches, and Munoz was leaving his glove open so they could see the grips on his pitches. And when you're facing Andres Munoz, knowing that slider's coming is pretty useful. So I don't know how much was pure location, how much was gamesmanship, but Dominic Canzone was right after him, and he was signaling as well. And I think in this situation, you have to do whatever it takes. Sure, could you be a little more subtle? Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Has Josh Naylor ever come off as a subtle dude when it comes to that kind of stuff? And I'll say this about Josh Naylor, and it's true. He picks it up from watching the games, like the lost art of watching games. You're not looking at the iPad and everything else. He's in there watching games, and like he picks stuff up while he's watching the game, whether it's from the dugout on base. He sees all that stuff. And I mean, credit to him. Yeah, could you do it a little bit more subtly? Probably. And we saw Dingler moving the locations around a little bit and trying to fake out the locations. And I don't know how much of it was real and what wasn't. It certainly bothered Casey Mize when he was pitching. So I don't think Josh is going to change. I don't think anything's going to make Josh Naylor change anything. So from there, we'll see. But it'll be interesting tonight. In the old days, heaters in your ribs. I just don't think in the postseason you're going to see that.
No, you might see it next season, or like Kratz said, sometime in 2026 when it matters less in a different moment. And I don't believe Hinch for a second, or even if you do, it might not have bothered him, but it bothered some of the players. And we also saw what happened later on in the game. I mean, the Tigers lit up. I'm not saying that was what caused it, but I think some Tigers were pretty pissed about it. That's me.
They're certainly aware about it right now. They're going to be discussing, and I'm sure they discussed it on the flight and discussing it pregame. Make sure, hey, close up your glove. Okay, don't signal too soon. We saw that with Cal Raleigh too. They felt like the Dodgers were tipping some, and even the Astros were tipping some pitches. And Cal Raleigh started showing the glove and his target a lot later because of it. You make the adjustment, and there are no, you're trying to win here, and it isn't illegal. I mean, I think that's probably one reason why AJ Hinch can't talk about it or be hypercritical of it, because it'd be a little hypocritical if he did, considering who he managed during those years.
Exactly right. He has to watch it a little more, which is understandable too. Ryan, enjoy it, man. It's going to be awesome. What a scene. I know you've covered this team for a minute, and this is the big moment. So thanks for joining us before. Appreciate the time, dude.
Yeah, thanks. I've had a lot of AJ in my life. I'm not going to say five games of AJ. It's a lot.
One more AJ, and he's going to be bringing it. This is his last game of the year. So yes, we apologize in advance, but I don't feel bad for you. We have him on just about every day. So I sit next to him for half of my life. Thanks, Ryan. Talk to you soon, dude.
All right. You guys.
It's Ryan Divish. Check out his work in the Seattle Times and give him a follow at Ryan Divish if you don't. He'll be dialed in tonight. Let's do this. Locks. I told you, Kratz. I just said, what do I think is going to happen in Phillies Dodgers? I think the Phillies will eke out a win. Okay, I'm going Dodgers money line. We're having that moment right now. Where did Sanchez end up? 5? 4? At least 4, because I had a separate parlay going. He had 5. Okay.
Mark Wagner apologized to me also for missing that, which would have.
Oh my goodness, you got
pushed me over.
Squeezed. You got squeeze hooked. Damn, dude. Damn.
I got squeezed.
That is rough. All right, so let's re-rack. Let's get back on track here. Kratz, you're up first.
I'm going to go over strikeouts. George Kirby, I think they're going to leave him in there long enough. And I think they're going to leave him in there long enough because they're going to probably push Kerry Carpenter up in the lineup. And that is his kryptonite with this team. I think it's 12 at-bats, 5 home runs. I might not have the at-bats right, but it's 5 dingers or it's 5 hits. So I think they're going to let him face him, and he's just going to cruise through this order. 6 punchies, coming out at minus 105, put 105 down to win 100.
Nice. KP, your thoughts?
Yeah, to Kratz's earlier point, it's going to take a couple jam shots. So since I couldn't bet on the under on the barrels, because that's not a bettable statistic yet, I'm taking the under on the runs from both of the starting pitchers, which I believe are both at 1.5, and I'm parlaying those.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here with pitching dominating. I know it's tough to look at a 5.5 and go under, but I'm doing it at plus money. Under 5.5 runs. I'm doing
That's
it.
wild. That's wild. I agree with you. That's what's most wild.
We all agree with you, because if I could bet on jam sandwiches, I would too. But you can't. The over on jam sandwiches is 9. I'm going over because both of these guys are nasty.
This is the way that you do it. For me, I mean, sometimes you get tempted into that, and you're like 5.5. It feels so low. I'm going under. Often it's the right call, and it's plus money on this one. Sure, can a reliever blow up late in the game? Can we get some more homers than we expect? Maybe, but we all seem to think
Seattle.
Exactly. A game in Seattle with elite pitching. I'm just saying, a game in Seattle with elite pitching. I'm going to go with the likelihood that it's a 2-1 final. Hey, Hot Corner, let's sizzle. This news just came out. Jose Iglesias has been slapped with a 1-game suspension, and Xander Bogaerts an undisclosed fine, both of them in some trouble for their conduct towards the umpires in the dugout following Game 3. KP, have you ever seen this before? I mean, this type of closeness after a game where clearly it was contentious, there was a wrong call, and the Padres feel like it ended their season.
I've seen it in a very similar venue, an older venue in Fenway, when the umpires actually have to walk through your dugout to go up there. Not a playoff game, but a regular season game. And that's something that it shouldn't really happen, because it was a moment, a playoff game. Obviously the wrong call was made. Players are human beings, umpires are human beings. Emotions got the best of them, but they should never really kind of have to leave out of the same exit. That could have been avoidable. And why are we suspending guys for next year? Let things that happened last year die with their season. Allow the guy to play next year. Move on.
Really good point here too, Kratz. I mean, we have a big dumper in baseball. We also have the famous Friday news dumper in baseball. This is so classic to put this out on a Friday afternoon, but it is what it is. It's a story. And I'm wondering if there's another way for the umps to go out. I mean, I know covering, and it depends on the ballpark, but covering postseason games sometimes, or most of the time, we would come out of a spot where the umps would come in. And I thought that was partially for them to not exit through where players are going to be. Am I wrong on that?
Parks. So the umpires go, like when there's like a separate, think Pittsburgh down the third base line, although they have to make the playoffs. So Bob Nutting doesn't like that. But there's a separate way to go down the steps. It looks like it's the dugout, but it's actually a separate entrance. It's the groundskeepers. So I think it's stadium to stadium. I mean, think about Wrigley. You could barely fit in a dugout before, and then they've done so many renovations, but there's no second way out. Like, not only are they going down those steps, right there in Wrigley, they're going down into the dugout, and then they're going down basically either through the video room. I think they have to go through the video room, which is at the
weight room,
bottom of the dugout. And so you're going through some fire, and guys are pissed. I don't agree at all with so many parts of this. I don't agree with what Iglesias did and Bogaerts did. I don't agree with the umpire barking back. I don't agree with them having to walk through. It just felt like everybody was set up for failure to make a bad choice. Like, everybody's just barking back. And fortunately, the other umpires are like, okay, we got it. That's the Padres trainer right there who's helping hold some of the guys back. Like, it's not good.
Okay. I think most people agree that it was not a good situation, but whenever something gets called out, I need a solution. What would have been the solution in that scenario? And yes, I'm thinking back now to when I covered Cubs postseason games, and we're going through a lot of concourse and fans and stuff because, again, there's just not the same setup as some of the other ballparks, right? A lot of the parks, Kratz, do have the separate tunnel there. Like, I'm thinking of Houston, for example, because I've been there a million times since the Astros have been in the postseason a lot. You know, they have that spot where I guess still technically you can go through some fans. It's like the bougie suite underground kind of area. There's all that food, but then you can veer off. You know what I'm talking about? And so the umps go through and then we go out to do our interviews and it's completely separated from the players. That's a more modern ballpark, though.
The answer is there's always going to be something wonky about it. Do you wait for the players to get out? Do you wait for, because that's brutal. You make the umpires just stand out there in the field while, because it could have been the other way. It could have gone against the Cubs. And the Padres had, they were celebrating on the field in that moment. Like, it could have been different. Maybe they should have two separate ways. Like, let's say they go through the Padres dugout there. Hey, look, we got to use our field, change it up. We're going through the Cubs dugout. Why are we going through the Cubs dugout now? I like the other way. You might have to walk a little bit farther, but the Cubs are out on the field jumping around. Padres are looking to cut your head off.
Yeah, a couple things. First off, I just want to mention that Iglesias has a chance to appeal. He's going to appeal, so he might win that battle and get it reduced to a fine. It's one game, so they pretty much slapped the minimum on him, and then it could still come down. But KP, maybe we all learned from this. And when I say we, it's mostly the league and the umpires to decide. If you're in a spot like Wrigley where you have to go through players, you don't even have to look at the specific game. What if the umps exit where the team that won is, right? Where the team that won is located, because you're not going to have a pissed off team after they won a game. Not nearly as much. Sure, you could have some weird situation that popped up, but what if you just do that? And if you have to walk an extra 2 minutes, who the hell cares at that point?
Yeah, I think there should always be a contingency plan in place too, because very easily, if the Padres would have won that, let's say the fans were really upset. Maybe the game ended the other way and the fans are really upset at the umpires over the call that they made, and maybe even their safety is in jeopardy. Like, I think there's got to be a bunch of different sort of contingency plans for these umpires to get off the field safely. But like you said, players should learn from this. I know emotions were really high. It's really unfortunate that it happened, but I think it's something they should take a look at. And even in an older ballpark like Wrigley, there's got to be a second way for them to get out. And even if it takes them a little bit longer to have to walk a little bit further off the field, let's just make sure that they get off the field, not having to necessarily interact with either team. Like you said, a lot of these new ballparks do a good job of it. And now that I'm on the other side, the media side, I saw where, I would enter on the field is the same way that the umpires are coming in and out of the field. And they never really have to interact with either dugout.
Mm-hmm. Also, ABS coming next year, challenge system, that will help. Don't run out of challenges at the wrong time. And then you can win that battle fair and square. And then you can beat up a robot if you disagree. But last point here too, there is security that MLB, I think, does a good job with. I remember every single game I've covered, and it's always all about, we have to wait. The security's handling getting the umpires off the field. But again, yes, I do think a key here is that you're at Wrigley and you're in a tougher spot. But now hopefully everyone learns from this situation, because it looked like it could have gotten much worse, if anything, KP. You're pissed off, your season's over. One person barks, another person barks back. we
I
could
mean, I'm
have seen a
almost
fight.
certain. I've never been on the Cubs side, but I would imagine the way that the underneath setup behind the visiting dugout is probably mirrored by the other way. So just make a tunnel that they can enter and exit to both sides and just always go out the team that wins because usually they're in a better mood.
Bingo. I really think that's the move. Good. We have solved
Oh my God.
world's
You're
problem.
welcome. You're welcome, Rob.
The baseball world problem that has plagued us all. All right, FT fam. We're coming back to do slap. We've got some items to assess.
That one's free, Rob. Next one's we're going to charge you.
One interview.
FT Nation, what's up? It's Pap, and we're coming in for your playoff bets with BETMGM. And listen, I know Tarek Scoople's going tonight, but the Mariners, they got the big dumper and J-Rod. And so I'm going with the big dumper and J-Rod tonight. I also think the over is going to hit, but I'm just going to take the Mariners because it's plus even money and plus 100. So I'm going to put 100 on it and home field advantage as well. Let's go Mariners.
All right, Pap, we see you. Here are the locks of the day for everyone. Either plus money or close to plus money picks for everyone. So good luck tonight with your locks. You only had one game to choose from. And if you're new to the party on BetMGM, then get yourself signed up and look at an odds boost token for the postseason. You can apply that boost. You see that nice little gold slab across the bottom there. You turn the boost on, and if you apply that to a bet slip that is eligible for it and activate the token, you can win a little more, a little extra winnings. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Coming back for a quick minute here. So Mike G's a big Cubs fan, and he's been in the chat. We've been going back and forth. Two things. One, he said we were not listening closely enough to the broadcast because it was in the very beginning of the game. And I actually will take the L on that one. He's probably right. We were doing a post-game show, and they were flipping from the one game to the other. So there was a little bit of crossover there. So I was looking at it, but I guess I missed, apparently the broadcast was picking up the Freddie thing, and it was a huge deal, and it's all they're talking about in Chicago. So, okay, that's fair. Number two, Cade. Yeah, exactly. Not a national story, more of a local thing. Cool. Cade Horton. He said, would you try and fudge the roster, get someone hurt to put him in for game 5 because he said that he's pain free now? And I looked into the story a little bit more, and he did say he's pain free, but he said really not trying to still push it. But for right now, I'm feeling good. So I don't know if he's definitely ready, and I don't think that's going to happen because I'm assuming there's got to be all kinds of throwing programs and things going on. But maybe he will be a factor in the next round, which would be huge for them if that's the case.
Not fudging the roster. As somebody who's been on the Phantom IL, they're not fudging the playoff roster. You're going to go through a lot more channels to be able to fudge a roster in the postseason.
Someone get hurt so Cade can come back. Fractured ribs over. All right, let's slap quick Kratz Hatz. Nice.
That's it. I'm here with my buddy K Pizzle Drizzle from the Sizzle.
I have a question for K Pizzle. Skip Schumacher was just introduced as Rangers manager. We all saw that one coming, but are you excited for him to lead the charge now?
Am I excited for what?
For Skip.
I'm not there anymore. Yeah, I like Skip.
I think
Skip,
the area.
I think
you want to see them be successful.
Yeah, I'm excited for Skip. I like Skip a lot as a human. He was around a ton. I think he got kind of the short end of the stick in Miami, and he's in a good place. He's in a good place. He's took a year off, learned the organization. I think he's the right guy for the job, considering what they're talking about. Obviously, they have a lot of big contracts they have, but they're going to have to fill that roster with a lot of younger guys too to kind of bring payroll down. I think Skip has a history of what he did in Miami. getting the best out of those young guys. So I think he's the right guy I think he's the right guy at the right time where this organization is heading.
I didn't see the press conference, but saying you want to establish a winning culture for a team that won 2 years ago, Skip, you might want that one back. Like, obviously, I love Skip,
but I think that's been kind of the big. I think that's kind of been the big issue.
Yeah.
They've been. It's been an excuse year after year. We won a World Series. The culture isn't about winning right now. So I think what he's saying is valid.
I agree. And he did it in Miami with no personnel. It's a thing. It might be a generic comment, but I agree with KP.
Yeah, it's not a winning team. It's a culture that he created. So I think it's fair.